Yo, 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 we are live, we are
Hello.
live, we are live now in the building.
Hey.
Good morning, how you doing? Or good afternoon.
Yes, it is the afternoon in 1 minute. So we're almost there.
In 1 minute, 1 minute.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show.
What was I going to say? So we're back. It's day 2 of our 30-day challenge to go live every day at 12, Monday to Friday. So every weekday at 12. Today, we are talking about, what we're talking about?
We should do our intros.
Okay, let's do our intros. My name is Neodate Evans.
And I am Nana Evans.
And this is For Evan's Sake Daily, bringing you the news cycle from a parenting perspective.
Yes.
A few things to talk about today.
Yes,
obviously, for a lot of parents out there, it's a bit of a staggered start back to school.
Exactly. Some children are going back to school today, which feels a little bit premature.
It feels a bit harsh.
Yes.
It feels a bit harsh.
That's how they're doing it. So yesterday, a warning was actually issued through the Department of Health.
Which was?
To say that COVID and flu is on the rise.
Do you remember COVID?
COVID ain't left. So to not send your children back to school if they are feeling poorly.
Yeah.
This was a warning that they issued out.
But did they give like symptoms?
No, it was literally if they seem to have cold or flu-like symptoms, because usually with a cold you could still send your child into school.
But we're in cold and flu season.
Yes, so they're saying keep them at home. Do not send them into school.
Listen, if my youths are watching this, it's not happening. It's not happening. You're getting to school.
Anyway, it's a bit like, okay, so keep them at home. And then what about all of the other provisions? So work.
You know what the thing is now, though? Because what COVID did do, it allowed schools to put into place learning from home. And so it's very easy, obviously, at the end of last year when we had the snow, it's very easy for them to turn around and say, snow day, however, log on.
Yes,
and so from their perspective, there's a feeling of like, it's not a lost day. We're doing something the children are learning, but, it's debatable.
Okay, yeah, children are learning, but what about if I have to go out to work? So I have to then take sick days.
Charlie, that's your problem, oh?
Well, this is the thing.
This is where we're at.
I think in these types of conditions, there needs to be extra government provision to help families that now were really in this crazy flu. Because it's not normal flu. It's like people are having persistent coughs.
It is quite serious.
Crazy different types of colds that aren't leaving for like 2 weeks. It's been a bit mad. Like there's definitely something else out there as well as COVID and a standard flu. So we need a little bit more help. We need some monetary help.
How's money going to help? Like, so they say the kid has to stay to school, and then you want them to be like, but because the kid had to stay. So basically, you want to be paid for looking after your child.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. I actually do think that there's a real argument for that to be implemented.
I mean, I guess, one could argue, I would say that when we were going through COVID, the amount of interaction and the amount that we had to be involved with the online learning, what I didn't understand is why, because they were just setting work and then leaving them to it. But I didn't understand why the teacher couldn't be available on Zoom during school hours.
Yes.
That didn't really make any sense. I feel like we put in a shift.
Yeah, all the time.
I think a lot of the parents, we all put in a shift, and I would like to be back compensated for that. I would like to be back compensated. But yeah, so anyway, so there's that. The other thing that caught my eye in the news yesterday was Jermain Defo has announced his divorce from a lady called Donna Tierney. And they've been married since July.
Yes.
Spent 200 grand on the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's no more. And my old school African sensibilities kicked in. And I was, hands up, I was probably a bit judgmental. And I just thought, this is really reckless behavior. But specifically because both of them have children from previous relationships. And so my question is, and obviously I am absolutely, we are absolutely the most least qualified people to talk on this. And so I'm hoping that you guys watching will also chime in, because I'm just like, this, from an outsider looking in, this feels like reckless behavior, because, you know, allowing your children
I get it. Yeah, because it's like you've gone into what could be seen as a bit of a whirlwind relationship quite quickly, and then got married without the substance of time as well, and knowing each other. And that's a hell of a lot of money to spend, and then it end very quickly. But I do think there is a recklessness to it.
There was something that Aaron from Raising Boys to Men did say, which I think it was during when we did the live last year at the Barbican for your aunties, and he was talking about how you spend that time. So you could be with somebody for 5 years but be seeing them on weekends, or you could be with somebody for 6 months and see them absolutely every day. And so there is that to take into account. But if I'm being honest, I don't know if I'm 100% sold on that. There still does feel like an air of recklessness.
No, I think, it's, you fall in love and there is that extra serotonin that comes in, and those hormones are swelling, and they say that those hormones last for like 2 years, which seems to be the span of these two relationships. So actually it is like, you can stay committed, you could be engaged, you could like set up your lives, but get past that 2 year kind of interactions with each other before you're entering into marriage. Was there any counseling? Like, there's so many different things where you'll find out we're not really compatible. But to run in and just jump into, we are going to be married, blending families, to then end like 5 months later, to me, I think is reckless. You can have a relationship, it's cool, but I just think once you add in that extra step with children that are like, you know, but both of their kids are not that old. They're
9 and 12.
It's just and it's just
those
wasteful.
Those are really impressionable ages as well.
I think so. This could be being very judgmental, but I do think that I do think there is something to the sanctity of marriage and taking it seriously.
Oh, we sound
when you
so
go
smug.
when you go into that, when you enter into that institute, I do feel like you should take it serious. And 5 months to me, I'm wasting 200,000.
It's the 200
allegedly.
It's the 200 grand I care about, man. Like, I could have done something with that.
Well, if they were using black vendors, then I don't mind.
Fair enough. You always got to bring it back to the black. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, that's that. So, guys, I don't know. Are we being a little bit sanctimonious? Please chime in the comments if, you know, we are. And if we, you know, as I did say, we are probably the least qualified people to talk on this. But from outsiders looking in, it does feel like that a little bit. But anyway, let's get on to the meat.
Okay.
Harry.
Our meaty story today. Harry is back in the news.
Again. And I think there was a collective sigh and groan from everybody.
Harry's back in the news. Well, Harry has a documentary that's coming out. So it's a bit crazy because we had Harry and Meghan's documentary on Netflix, but this is now Harry has a book to be released, and now he has an interview kind of talking about the things that are in the book. And with that, it's come back out again. The excerpts that have been released, he's going at his dad and his brother for not wanting to reconcile with him. So we're back here again. But when I was looking into it, I really wanted to talk about like sibling rivalry.
Yeah. What
that is, like what our thoughts are on that as well, and how this is continuously playing out in this family for generations. And now we have the newest ones on the block still living out the same types of sibling rivalry.
I think the Harry situation is interesting because although I don't necessarily agree with everything he and Meghan have done, I do believe what he is trying to do, and he's going up against a machine, right?
An institution.
And what he's trying to do is break generational curses. And we talk a lot about generational curses and breaking these generational curses. And it's one thing to do it on a level of like, quote unquote, ordinary people. But it's quite another thing to do it when you're born into an institution such as the royal family and absolutely everything you do, everything you say is scrutinized by the world's media.
Well, he's going to the media now.
But I
He's
think
actively
it's also strategic, because if so let's just say he's like, right, I'm going up against the machine. Literally, he has to use the machine against the machine. So you have to he has to do what he's doing in order, because otherwise there's no way he can do it.
Well, it's, do you want to heal your family, or do you want people to turn against them? And I think that's the question.
Well, the answer I don't think is necessarily clear cut, because I think sometimes in healing your family, people may go against you.
Yeah, but it's doing it publicly. Do you really want to have a relationship with your dad and your brother? Why, if you do, I don't think courting the world's opinion on your situation is the answer. But I think you're both playing the same game. It's just
if you're unable to have effective communication with your dad and your brother, privately, okay, so maybe
you should do it publicly.
But maybe by doing it publicly, you almost cajole them into having to respond and go into an open dialogue.
I mean, he could be hoping that that's the end scale of it. That could be his hope.
Okay, but as we said in the title, we're looking at sibling rivalry from a parenting perspective. So let's specifically look at Charles and his handling of the situation. And I think even though we talk about the institution and the firm that they their situation is different in that respect. Although I also think it's not necessarily that different, because I think in regular families, the firm can also be likened to the wider family, the elders. Yeah. And so sometimes as a parent, you will feel you know what's best for your children, how to manage your children. But a lot of the time, we're still also have a feeling that we have to live up to the expectations of the firm, i.e. the elders, the extended family.
Yeah, definitely.
And so how do you think Charles has, number one, how do you think he's managed it? And how do you think he should be managing it?
I don't think Charles is actually equipped to be an effective parent, because I don't think he was parented effectively. I think they have generations of people where there are too many other bodies in between your family business. And that's the problem. The fact that you can't have clear communication with your son, where he has to put things in emails to you, really suggests to me that you are not an effective parent. Like there's a lack of parenting there. To have to schedule in time to see your grandparent, that to me is mad. It doesn't matter if it's the Queen. That's somebody's grandmother. All of those things, I just think as a family structure, they're lacking fundamentally. And they do have this problem with siblings. We see it generation after generation. The Queen and her sister, they had issues as well. And her sister would always say there's a lack of care. Like she can't just talk to her properly. So for Charles, it's like, he's not been a good father, because really you take the matter in hand. This isn't for handlers. You as their father, as the king, you get your two sons together. But I guess the other thing is, if you're even doing that, he could have, Harry, this is what you got to do. And if Harry is like, no, where do you go from there? If you're trying to regulate it, and one kid is like, okay, I'm doing it this way, and the other one is like, actually, whatever you say to me, I'm going to go public, although he's saying whatever I say to them comes out publicly. Is it not the poles? Are we not doing the polarity? Are you not both doing the same things? One's doing it facelessly and you're doing it with your face. It's the same thing.
I do wonder, because what you just said about Charles bringing his sons together. Now, I haven't followed the documentary in depth, but to me, as a father with two sons, I'm like, in my mind, I don't understand how it can get to this point. So, for example, two boys, they're close in age, and they're actually really, really close, Akai and Akaija. However, boys are boys, siblings are siblings, and they do have their little spats. And in the beginning, when they used to have these spats, I could literally feel the inside of my mind exploding, because I'm like, no, I can't have this, I can't have this, I can't have this. But then as it goes on, you don't want it to spiral and what have you. But then as it goes on, you realize, number one, these things generally, because they're so small, they work themselves out. And you learn also when you actually really need to step in and mediate between the two. And it just feels like, from the outside looking in, there has absolutely never been that. And that's what I find really strange.
Well, in some families, it's not seen as a problem for siblings to not talk to each other.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, if you're in a family where you could go years and you haven't spoken, and there isn't, to me, any elders that step in to call a meeting or something to try and find out and mediate as to how you can have some type of a relationship again, that becomes normal. It becomes like, okay, this is what we do. We don't speak for years.
But it's weird, because I get that not all siblings can be batty and bench. And so some siblings, they may not talk, but they don't have necessarily any issues.
You're just not close.
But then, is that also like, so is that okay to have that situation and be like, well, no, that's just how we are? Or is that also a point where actually elders or somebody needs to step in and be like, actually, no, you need to. If
somebody is hurting, like how Harry is, he's clearly in distress that his family has broken apart, then I think it is for somebody to step in and try and create a healing situation. If everybody is fine with how it is, and it's just like, I'm just not close to my siblings, and you've created your new family, which is like your friends or your cousins or whatever, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
As long as it's not bad blood.
Yeah, as long as there isn't any animosity. But for media stories, creating documentaries, literally living out this same narrative all the time, some type of healing needs to take place. And Charles, as the king, he has got that title. You need to lean into it a little bit more. I think he has to do something about it.
I most definitely think that the royal family are moving into a phase where they need to evolve.
Yes.
Because as Harry kind of continues to make this public, and although people are getting tired of the Harry and Meghan
woe is me story,
eventually people will start also piping up and talking about Charles as a parent, William as a brother. And the royal family, since time immemorial, have had this thing of never complain, never explain. And I think we live in a time now where so much is played out in the media, on social media, that actually this ideology of never complain, never explain, is gonna make you look
definitely
very complicit. And it's like you can't hide behind it.
No. And just in all walks of our society now, even with brands, it's like they want brands to state their values. What do you stand for? The royal family is not exempt from that. Like, just celebrities, like, showing more of their lives in order to keep people's attention. The royal family is exactly the same. You can't just have a child, roll them out on a step and do a photo. It's just not going to cut it anymore. We're living in a different time. So they have to evolve. This actually permeates into most families are going to deal with very similar situations, not to this scale, but you're going to have people that fall out. If you guys are put in this role as leaders, as true influencers to nations, how are you dealing with this? It's not okay to not deal with it and for it to just carry on. You have to actually find some solutions. That I would give them something. At least it would be worth taxpayers' money if they actually set some type of standard instead of a rolling flipping EastEnders of drama with them. It's like, have some solutions. Do something to help society.
It's ironic, really, because, you making that EastEnders reference is them keeping stum about everything is actually providing us with more drama.
Because then we do what our brains are going to do.
Yeah.
We are going to reach different types of conclusions.
Yeah.
But also, feeding the media with stories against Harry and Meghan as well. That's not a lie. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Because we know within that time, William and Kate were going through stuff and his alleged affairs were coming out, and then we weren't hearing about that.
I think absolutely Harry has been made in parts a sacrificial lamb.
I think from since he was a teenager.
For his brother to cover up. And I can understand his anger towards them. And I can understand him being in spaces and environments where he would be meeting people whose ideologies and the way they've grown up is different and outside from the royal family. So I can totally understand where he is.
Yeah.
Because of how his family is.
It's like coming out of a cult.
Yeah.
And so he's like grieving and angry, and you want to get your story out there to get it out of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely get it. But at the same time, it is like there needs to be a period of quiet and healing that takes place for him and Meghan.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can talk about it from a different standpoint, and maybe things will shift in a little way. But at the moment now, it just feels like screaming at people to join you in your like trying to get them to be the bad guys. And I do think there's, in all relationships, there's going to be bad on both sides.
Yeah. And I again, so you've watched it, I haven't, but what I would like to see more of, and not just in Harry, I just think in humans in general, whenever somebody's telling a story of how somebody has done them wrong, I'm always interested when somebody is also able to say and talk freely about the part that they played.
Yeah, I did
in the
this
wrongdoing.
in that. Yeah,
I did this. I shouldn't have done that. This, that, and the other. Did you watch the whole thing?
I can't see much self-reflecting in it. Other than, to me, what I was getting was just from the other side, from the royals that still have their titles, there was a jealousy to the first spate of media courting Harry and Meghan and them being so favourable.
Okay.
And it seems like, Buckingham Palace and all of the other palace offices decided they were going to change the narrative.
Right.
And feed negative stories. And then I guess the easiest thing to jump on is race in that.
Yeah.
For me, is how I'm reading it.
No, 100%.
And then I do think that most people are racist. So you're just going to jump on that narrative because you have that parasite in you already.
Yeah.
I don't think it was initially race-based.
I think it's
that
probably
story
way
was fed.
more class and just Harry kind of fishing outside of the family pool, so to speak. And I think it's way more that than her, because in terms of...
I don't think they cared at first. I mean, there probably was conversations in the background. Who knows? But
I think they cared, but probably not to the extent that's been made out.
Yes, she was popular for a minute.
Yeah.
And then it changed. And that for me is also like what I'm seeing from Meghan. That's the reeling effect, because she was popular for a moment.
And so she's now trying to deal with...
Well, you got dealt a shitty hat. Definitely. It's like you get crazy vitriol at her, which wasn't there before. And then they do show that a lot of it is bots as well.
Yeah.
And orchestrated attacks against her. So there's all of those bits in it. But if things were going well, fundamentally, she would be fine with being a part of that institution. And that to me is like, I can't get behind you, because you literally, if they had said, go to South Africa, you would have been lording it up with the Africans.
Yeah.
So no, my sympathy only goes so far as hearing a tragic tale that somebody would say of how their family are no longer speaking. Yeah. That's the extent of it. I'm not invested.
I have to agree with that completely, because and I think this is always the thing with any story regarding the royal family, is that I really always have to take a step back and be like, okay, it's still human beings having human experiences, but ultimately, as a family, they're so far removed from anything any of us are really experiencing. And so for somebody like Meghan, and also the thing of like, she didn't really know anything about them.
That's
and
madness.
Like, come on, bruv. Like,
I mean, maybe she didn't, but that to me is like,
No,
are
but-
you crazy?
The whole thing is that when you meet somebody, you do your due diligence.
Well, you would hope most people would.
And so even if I give her, you didn't know anything about the royal family until Harry came along. But I guarantee, listen, if Shanika down the road meets Devon and she finds out Devon lives in Hackney, she's, before she gets involved, she's finding out everything about Devon.
You're gonna go looking.
Do you see what I'm saying? And so
let alone a prince.
You're gonna do your research. You can't tell me that you're like looking at this man, I'm gonna marry him, but you have no idea what that entails.
I mean, you may not know the magnitude of it, definitely, being an American. There may be that disconnect, but Google is your friend.
Yeah.
And so all you'd need to do is just Google the family.
I know, for me, if I was in her situation and I Googled it, I'm calling it off.
Well, on another side, what black person, really, black or mixed race, is going into the royal family and thinking you are going to be okay?
Yeah, no. I was like, this was never going to be. Maybe she could never know how exactly it was going to play out, but this was never going to be all right. There was always going to be some issues.
Side one. This is still news though. So do you remember Shaman Durek?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
From back in the day.
Yeah.
So Shaman Durek, he is on Instagram if you want to see. He's a shaman. He purports to be able to heal you. He is now getting married to a princess from Norway.
Oh wow, okay.
Yes. So, and on his page is just littered with Norwegians just cussing him daily.
Oh, why?
Because he's a black man.
Oh.
Where the king has had to issue a statement out to the nation to be like, you cannot be racist to my future son-in-law. But also, on top of that, when they do get married, the princess somehow has decided that she is going to step down from royal duty. So we see how this plays out.
Yeah.
She has been married before, and she didn't step down from her royal duties when she was married to that man who happens to be Caucasian. So it's an institution. It's like Game of Thrones. Not anybody can come in.
Not anybody can come in. Well, listen.
So it's an interesting one. We will see how this.
We'll see how it plays out. But ultimately, what we're saying is that Charles has failed in his care of duty to his sons to stop this from playing out the way it has.
Yeah, as much as you can as a parent. I think it's a part of your parenting duties to step in when things are escalating. It's very hard if you are also a part of the escalation, though.
Yeah.
That's when it is about the village. It is about the other elders to come in and try and restore some healing. It's not easy and it can take years.
So the thing I was going to ask was, before we go, is as a parent, ideally you're Switzerland, you're neutral, right? But what if you are, this sibling is wrong?
Yeah, it's hard. Then somebody else comes in. But unfortunately for that family, you have an uncle that is exceedingly dubious, so you can't take his word for anything. And then you have another one who seems to be quite quiet. But very family oriented as well. So then that uncle, or the aunt as well, Anne's there. Another elder comes in. Not your aides, not people that work for you or are being paid. Another person in the family that is the importance of aunties as well.
Yeah.
On my other podcast that I'm on, Your Aunties Could Never. Your aunties are important. So Anne should come in and start healing.
At this point, I'm trying to think of a way to drop the Chop House pod, but yeah, well done. All right. So listen, let us know what you think. Sibling rivalry. As a parent, have you had to deal with it? How have you dealt with it? How do you think Charles is dealing with it? How do you think the royal family is dealing with it in general? Please pipe up in the comments. Let us know.
Yes.
Thank you for being here with us again. We will be back again tomorrow at 12.
Yes.
We have no idea what we're talking about yet, but stick to the socials.
And if you see any news that you're like, actually, you guys talk about this,
please let us know.
That would be great as well. That'd be very helpful. But yes, and we started at 12 today.
We started at 12.
Very proud of ourselves.
Very
so tomorrow.
Clap for us. Yay for us. So we will see you back here 12, youtube.com/meant2excel. That's it.
You're Nee, and I am Nana.
I am Nee. She is Nana.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.